Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Rob.
Morning.
Morning.
I'd like to call to order the Dartmouth Board of Public Works meeting for December 21st, 2023. I note that Mr. LaBelle and Mr. Alves are in attendance. Therefore, we have a quorum. Let me see. Okay, our first order of business is to approve and accept warrants. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve and accept the warrants for the bills payable period ending November 20 and 27 and December 4, 11, and 18 of 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Next item is approve and accept payrolls.
Motion to approve and accept the payrolls for the weeks ending, excuse me, November 18 and 25 and December 2nd, 9, 16 of 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is to approve and accept meeting minutes for November 16th. Have all the board members had a chance to go over the meeting minutes?
I have, yes.
All right. Any comments?
None.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve and accept the meeting minutes of November 16, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next on the agenda is old business. Update of discussion, 3 Alder Court. Tim, you want to start us out on that, please?
As you remember, or may remember, last month, we brought this to the board. The property owners of 3 Alder Court had hired a contractor to build a retaining wall to raise the elevation of their land around the pool that they installed. The wall was constructed partially within the right-of-way and within the site triangle. The as-built plan shows the extent of the wall built in the right-of-way. DPW had issued a letter to the residents, property owners, and they removed a portion of the wall at that time. The remaining section of the wall is shown to be both on private property and still a section within the public right of way. I believe the surveyor had painted a dot on the top of the stone wall at the point of tangent of the radius. And it shows that the wall approximately extends another 12.5 feet into the right of way, including 17.5 feet within the site triangle, at about 40 inches in height. We recommend the wall be at least removed to the property corner, or reinstalled along that radius, if the property owner wishes to extend the wall. And anything within the site triangle should remain less than 24 inches. That is a zoning requirement, so that's up to the building commissioner. But we do recommend that. So I do have a letter submitted by the property owners. I'm not sure if it was in the packet. It was received on the 12th. And also a neighborhood petition to keep the stone wall at the current location. So let me just show a couple pictures in the as-built, and then we can ask the property owners to speak on their behalf. All right, so you can see this.
Yes.
So this is the this was the as-built of the pool area and showing the retaining wall that was initially constructed. You see this X here, that's the sewer cleanout for reference. And this was, showed the wall extending into the right of way and then kind of radiusing past that clean out. So, okay, so if we look here for reference, this is that sewer cleanout. And this is the end of the wall just before the sewer cleanout. Now so they have removed that section, that radius around past the sewer cleanout and ended it there. Let's see. This shows basically where the tape measure is about the tangent of the radius coming in, and then this shows, I believe, to the site triangle, the length, and then the length of the wall that still remains. So the wall itself is approximately, I think, 20 to 24 inches wide, and the wall basically runs along the center of the property line. And so about 12 inches are on private property and 12 inches are on public property, which isn't really an issue. There are a lot of walls that are on the property line that are centered on the property line. The issue is the extension of the wall beyond the property line. So that kind of shows that it's about 40 inches tall. And right at the top where that tape measure is the paint dot, which I believe is about the tangent of that radius. The extension of the wall. There's that paint dot. And then,
Any board members have any questions? Tim, I have a question.
sure.
If the property owner from the beginning had sought a permit to encroach on the wall, does the town issue such a permit for new walls?
Not on public property. We would recommend that they hire a surveyor to delineate the property line, so to make sure that the wall remains on their private property.
So then, generally speaking, walls that do exist that extend down or straddle the property line are older walls.
Typically, yes.
All right. Is there any mechanism for permitting a stone wall such as this that would extend 12 inches into the public right of way?
We do have a right-of-way permit for work within the right-of-way.
But does that apply to permanent structures?
I guess it could, but so we did. We've had a couple of signs in the right-of-way that have been installed as permanent, I guess semi-permanent structures are signed. But yeah, so they've been approved through the building department and through our department. But we haven't. I've never seen a permit for a wall to be constructed within the right of way.
Typically, we would not allow a wall to be constructed in the right of way first and foremost. And I still have the same concerns as I've done last month regarding the site distance triangle, the height that doesn't meet the zoning. Still, nothing has changed. This plan that is in front of us again today has no information on it regarding that. So it's quite useless in my opinion, other than the pictures that you sent. So nothing additional is added to change my mind on the decision that was made last month. And with all due respect, I have other concerns regarding, the existing clean out, the sewer clean out that's there. And now you gotta, I'm sure this, again, I love the wall, it's beautiful, but Fortunately, it wasn't done properly. First and foremost, I don't know if there's a height requirement that needs to be, designed by, an engineer. If it exceeds, 4 feet, or if you guys have that such regulation in town, I don't know. So that's a concern, but the other concern is, if I'm not mistaken, we own that sewer lateral to that clean out or to that property line. And now in the future, say they sell a house, and with all due respect, the town has to come in and fix that sewer lateral accordingly. Now we're gonna destroy this beautiful wall. And then the town has to, in my opinion, what we destroy, we have to put back. And now we're gonna allow something on private, this should be on private property. That's within the town right away. So it's huge concerns for me in the future. Right now, it's not such a concern, but one sight distance, so that's a public safety concern in my opinion. And nothing's telling me that things have changed out here according to this plan. So I don't have any changes in my mind to, allow this to move forward. I don't know why this is back in front of us.
Well, this is back in front of us. We had our engineering department go and confirm the distance that from that point of curve, that the wall currently extends about 12.5 feet, and the rest was removed into the right of way. And then the property owners didn't have a chance to speak at their last meeting because they thought the meeting was at night rather than in the morning. So
Okay,
they asked for a chance to speak on their behalf.
sure. Thank you.
May I, Mr. Chairman, Tim, the sewer lateral and the clean out,
Yes.
is that owned by the town or by the property?
So from the street to the property line is basically
The town?
the town. Yeah.
No
And
kidding.
then, yep.
The
I know
walls,
I know in the city it's different from the main to the house is basically owned by the property owner.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why I'm asking. Is
No,
there
so
a
we-
line of sight issue there because of the height?
I'm physically I haven't driven
Mhm.
up to the corner to see if there's an actual line of sight. It's a subdivision road, so it's a kind of an interior road. It's not really a main street, so the speeds are a lot slower there. So I'm not sure if there's an actual sight distance issue.
Does it meet the zoning requirement, Tim?
Does not.
Okay,
And you had mentioned earlier, Tim, that the residents here had done other work without pulling appropriate permits.
Yeah, I believe some of the work that they did on site. I'm not exactly sure what work was done without permits. I think Paul Duat might be aware because he dealt with those permitting issues with the building department.
Mhm.
But it was mostly with building permits.
Okay,
yeah, I don't believe we did anything without a building permit. We got several building permits as we rehabbed the entire house. The only permit that I think we made a mistake on, well, two, one was the wall, when we didn't realize we needed a permit to put a wall up. And the other was when we did the pool, when we were told by the town after we got an easement for the pool that you're all set, enjoy your pool. We thought that meant we were all set, we could put it in. Once we found out that we actually needed a permit, we did apply for that immediately. And we've been waiting for several months now for it. I think it's been held up for because of the wall perhaps, but we put the wall in, in an attempt to make the property safer and look better. And we matched it with the existing wall that was there that was 5 feet back. We recognize that that was a mistake and we wish that if we could go back, we would do it differently. But we spent $14,000 building the wall. We tore down about 13 feet of it so that the clean out for the septic does not have a wall above it. I mean, for the sewer, it does not have a wall above it. So if any work needed to be done, you would not have to destroy the wall at all. So that's clear, I think, in the picture. that, the wall's not above where the, sewer line runs.
Okay, excuse me, if you don't mind, could you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Tom Reposa, the homeowner.
Thank you, Mr. Reposa. If there are no other questions or comments by the board, Mr. Reposa, would you care to continue?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that if you can see here that the sidewalk is it's about 5 feet back, which I know, again, it's not ideal. We wish we had done it differently, but it's a real hardship for us now to tear this wall down and rebuild it. We wouldn't be able to afford to rebuild it again, a foot back. I mean, it's easy to say that, but you know, it did cost a lot of money to build, albeit we didn't do it, you know, with the right rules, and we wish we had. And we would if we did it over, but you know, we're in a situation now where we've basically, this used to be just a big hill coming down, and we leveled it off and created a nice 5 foot sidewalk that, you know, is people could use now that they never had before. The curbing you couldn't even see. It was completely covered with overgrowth and, you know, dirt and everything. So we cleaned all that up. We thought we were doing a good job. We thought everybody would be happy. Every person that we've ever met that's driven by has stopped and said, "What a nice wall, and we're so glad you have it." And when you pull up to the end of the wall where it's broken, where the clean out is, even before you get there, somebody standing in the street, you can see their knees because you got an 8% incline on the right-hand side. So it is not a vision, it is not a safety issue in any way. There's not even a stop sign at the end of the street. So, I mean, people come in, they pull up, and they can easily see other cars coming. You could see a child standing in the street. I mean, even the surveyor pulled up at the dot where he put on the wall and looked over with my wife standing in the street, and he said, "I can't see your feet, but I can see your knees." So it's really not a visual impact. I know it's by code not perfect the way we did it, but I mean, as I drive around Dartmouth, I see maybe dozens, if not hundreds of violations of the 25-foot setback. I mean, even on the other side of my street, I'm on 2 houses on my street. The other house beside me has bushes that I've got to inch out to peek around the corner. You don't have that situation on our wall. Our wall is far more accessible and easily seen for anybody driving in the street. So I don't think it's really a safety issue. I'm not sure why it's been such a big issue that to come and actually measure to find out that we're inches over versus many walls I see, particularly right on the street. You know, when I drive around Dartmouth, I see so many violations. Now that this has been brought to my attention, I start looking at them and saying, why my wall compared to all these others? I see so many others that are such larger violations than what we have. I mean, I'm not making an excuse for it. We didn't do it right. I wish we did, but you know, I'd ask for just a little bit of leniency here and let us leave the wall and not have to undertake so much debt to remove a wall at this point would be just devastating to us.
So can I ask, so you hired a professional wall mason to build this wall,
Yes.
and they built it where they assumed the property line was? They
Well,
didn't,
he followed the wall that was already existing. He thought, well, if this wall's existing and been here for 30 years or 50 years, then we'll just continue it down. So it already ripped around the corner. He just continued it down. It was already kind of existing.
I mean, with
So
a,
he just built it further out. He thought it would be fine too. He thought we were 5 feet was plenty of room.
being a
He just
professional wall mason and working at, specifically working on an intersection corner of a property, you would expect them to request a survey so they can
yeah,
ensure that they're building something that's correct and in the correct location.
yeah. I wish he had mentioned it as well.
Mr. Reposa, how much of the existing, how many linear feet of existing wall was there prior to the new construction?
Well,
The whole right side.
on the other side of a property, you can't see it in this picture, but there's another wall.
On the other side of the driveway.
Yeah, on the other side of
It goes all the way to the frontage.
the bottom part here was existing. We just added to the top and built it down. So this was all existing. And then across from the driveway, on the other side of the driveway, is an entire wall that's been there for 40 years. At the same, actually, it's a little less from the road than the new wall. The new wall's about an inch back more. So it's just, they just tried to mimic the wall that was there, thinking that if that one's okay, this would be okay. I mean, it's a silly mistake, sure, but that was the thinking.
Have you been out there, Tim, to see this?
I have not, I've only seen it by pictures.
I think if you come out and drive by the street, you'll see that it's not an impairment to anyone. It's
Right.
really not an issue for anyone. You can see, if you get to the end of the street, you can see cars coming very easily, and we took down, there's 13 feet from the street to the wall before you even
Yep.
see the wall.
But so
But
one
I
of
know
these,
it's not 25 feet triangle, which I never even heard of until recently, but
so, well, that's one issue. That's only one issue, is a site triangle. The other issue is that the wall extends into the right of way, completely into the right of way. Rather than radius along your property line, which would probably in this area
It
somewhere.
doesn't impede anything.
yeah, I understand that. We didn't know about the 25-foot triangle. I've never seen any examples of it. And when I drive around Dartmouth, I don't see any 25-foot triangles, to be honest. I see walls right up, maybe not even 5 feet off the street. Many of them, you got to creep your car out just to peek around. I mean, all in my own neighborhood.
And you
Going onto
probably,
Allen Street, they're everywhere. But not to say that because everyone else does it, I should be allowed to do it. I'm just saying that I've never seen too many examples of that. And
so you may
even
see,
though it exceeds into the 25-foot
Triangle.
triangle that you're talking about, it does not impede your view at all of the street. I think that we should take that into consideration. That, you know, is it really a safety hazard? And I don't believe it is at all. And I think if you drive by, you'll agree.
so regardless of the safety triangle, the site triangle, see this corner right here? Where
Yeah.
it starts this radius? Well, this point right here is approximately where that paint dot is, where the tape measure was. And then the tape measure is running straight along this line of the wall.
Right,
Right.
13 feet from the street.
13 feet from this point out, this wall extends, and all this section is on public property. It's not on your property.
Right, I understand.
Regardless whether it's in the site triangle or not, it's on public property. It's not on your property, where the wall should have radius along this curve here
Yeah, I
on
understand
your
what you're
own
saying.
property. So,
Tim, how
So-
many linear feet is that?
so 12.5 feet from this point out it's extended on public property. The site triangle extends another 5 feet back this way, basically around that, where that 17.3 dimension line is, would be the end of the site triangle.
All right.
Approximately.
So let me see if I can help this discussion along a little bit. Tim, as it sits now, there's a significant amount of wall in the public right of way, which is, as we sit here today, not permitted and is inconsistent with both zoning and with the rules and regulations of the Public Works Department. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And is there a process by which a property owner can ask for a permit to encroach into the right of way?
They can ask to work within the right of way, and typically,
Work, but not do a permanent installation.
Right.
All right, so in terms of our ability under the existing rules to do anything but require this stone wall to be moved, the board's hands are tied at this point. Is that right? In other words, we don't have the discretion to go
Neither do
outside the
we.
rules and regulations as they exist, unless there's some kind of a permit or variance that can be granted to this property owner.
when they were signed, were a couple signs were granted for construction within the right of way. There was an opinion written by the building commissioner regarding allowing the structure to be built within the right of way as well. So,
So
All
it's
right,
possible that,
As it stands now, though, the board's taken action. And the property owner is welcome to explore some of these earlier actions and whether they would be applicable. But as it sits right now, we don't have a lot of leeway with this. I also want to point out that the stone walls in this town vary in age, and some of them go back hundreds of years, and well before there were any kind of rules or regulations regarding street right-of-ways. And so I'm not surprised that there are stone walls that are badly placed in terms of either public property or sight lines. That doesn't surprise me. But unfortunately, we have to focus on what's in front of us right here. Tim, do you have anything else to add?
just that if, I think if the wall was cut back to actually the property line, it probably would be a less of an issue for the site triangle. But as it stands, it encroaches a long length both into the public property and into the site triangle.
All right, so I hear you saying two things. One is there is an encroachment of about 6 inches between the driveway and where the radius would start. And then there is a continuation of the wall into the right-of-way that is basically the full width of the stone wall. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
At this point, if the property owner, sir, if you'd like to continue the discussion with Public Works, and I don't know, Tim, who else would be involved, it doesn't sound like a particularly optimistic start to the discussion. But that doesn't mean that you can't have the discussion and explore whether there are some kinds of alternatives. If there are, you're going to have to come back to this board with a different approach. You'll need some kind of a difference having to do with the existing permitting. And from what Tim says, it doesn't sound like there's an obvious avenue, but again, if you want to discuss this with the Public Works Department and possibly the building inspector or the building official, those are the alternatives that are available to you.
it sounds like, Tim, you were saying that there are possibilities, or there has been in the past, where you've enabled others to put a wall on the right of way. You said that
No,
it's not a standard thing, but it's been done. Is that what I heard you say, or no?
No, the only structures that have been permitted that while I've been director or ever that I know of has been signs.
Has been what?
Signs.
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 So I've seen a number of signs that have been permitted to be constructed within the right of way, as long as they don't, they're not within the site triangle or they don't affect site distance. But I've never seen a stone wall be permitted on public property.
So what you're saying then is if we took it down from where the orange dot is that you saw, that's the 25-foot setback there, if we left the rest of the retaining wall up, that would be sufficient, or would that not be okay either?
So that would be another question for the building official. So that dot is approximately, that dot is approximately the point of that beginning of that curve,
Right,
which isn't necessarily the end of the site triangle, but it is the property line. So, so as far as property wise and the stone wall being on your property, at that point, it would be at least 50% on your property, half the wall. And that would be, you know, another decision for the board to look at. But the site triangle would have to be, you may need a variance from the zoning board regarding that encroachment.
regarding the rest of the wall.
Encroachment.
Yeah, so from that, these crow's feet back probably another 5 feet is where the site triangle ends. And that's, you know, that could be determined by the building official or the zoning board, but this property line, this bold property line, the wall cannot encroach beyond that.
Other people.
So
Right.
I guess, I don't know where that leaves us. I guess we gotta talk to the building department now.
So,
Yeah.
so removing the wall to that orange dot would take this length of wall out of the public property.
So that would suffice for the DPW then. And then the rest is the building department, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, wait, be careful, Tim.
Well,
I think it'd be
this-
worth a conversation with, a three-way conversation among the building official, the department, and the applicant or property owner, and to be sure everybody's on the same page.
Right.
This is
Yep.
sensitive enough. I think y'all ought to put your heads together and decide whether there's something that can be done, and if so, what it is. All right?
Yeah, so that'd be the first step in the right direction. There would still be, like we said, there would still be a width of the wall, about approximately 12 inches that encroach within the right of way, and then there's the
More like 10.
site triangle, or 10 inches, could be 10 inches.
Yeah. At the worst, then it's 10. On the other ends, it's even less, but
Yeah. It tapers,
According
looks
to
like
the
it tapers
surveyor.
down. Yep.
most people think it's insane that we're sitting here having these meetings talking about 10 inches. And that's why over 50 people signed that letter saying they love the wall and they want to keep it. And they're very unhappy that we have to tear it down as well. So are we.
Yeah,
but
to me,
that's the rule.
the biggest issues are the extension into the public right away and the site triangle.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I've never seen a corner that, well, does the site triangle correctly as you guys define it, but.
There's a lot out there that don't even have this. And I know they're new walls
Yeah,
and stone walls.
brand new walls, brick walls even right on the street, but
Yeah.
if for
But
some reason you just keep coming after us, I don't get it, but.
No,
Whatever.
your property line doesn't come to a corner. It actually is a curve.
Right.
So that wall should be behind that.
We
curve.
understand that.
Yeah.
So Tim, I think it would be worth a short conversation with the wall builder, urging them to be a little more careful of property lines in the future. This is one of those unfortunate situations where anywhere along the line, a minor change would have saved everybody a lot of trouble.
But with
And
all due respect to everything, isn't it the contractor's responsibility
yes,
for all this? I mean,
Yep.
at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's on the homeowners, but the contractor did this and billed you people, unfortunately, and then you guys don't know the permitting process, but I don't even know who the contractor is. And shame on him.
Mm.
Shame
Yeah.
on him.
I
Period.
agree, but he's not gonna pay to take it down. I have to take him to court to try to take it down. I can't afford to do that either.
Unfortunately, unfortunately,
Huh?
that's the issue. And then
Yeah,
should make a note on who this contractor is, because he's not getting permits accordingly and ripping the public off, which shame on him again. And then the concern for the Dartmouth, in my opinion, is, okay, the site triangle, there's a bylaw regarding that, the height. Now, say for instance, somebody, God forbid, gets into a car accident there. and we allow this to happen, then what? You're sued, the town sued, everybody. So that's where, unfortunately, I believe it's a beautiful wall. It really is. And I hate to stay firm on that, but God forbid if something happens, if a kid
Yeah.
got hit, and then they know this is all public information and we allow this to go through, we're all in trouble. We
You
are
guys
all,
you got a lot of work to do if you're gonna start looking at 25-foot triangles and
like,
worried about being sued, because
well,
drive around the town and look around, you'll see nothing but
I don't
walls
disagree.
and bushes and trees everywhere,
I don't disagree.
everywhere.
It's a lot of work to be done. Absolutely.
In fact, you had to come survey this to determine it was over, so I guess we'll see you around town surveying others as well.
Well, not us, but the homeowners, if they're building new walls.
Well,
Anything
yeah,
else on this?
whatever. I don't wanna
Anything
get
else on
into
this, board members?
No.
All right. Thank you for joining us for this, what is a difficult discussion. And Tim, if you would, as they work on this, would you let us know what's going on?
I will.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, anything else on this? All right, I'd like to, yes? Okay, next item is approval of a revised agreement, old business item B. Tim?
So the engineering services for 579 Old Fort Road, water treatment facility, clear well, backwash supply, storage tank and pump station. The original agreement was for $288,300, was submitted to town hall for ARPA funding back in August. Once the Board of Selectmen approved the full project, including the construction, to be targeted for ARPA funding. Unfortunately, the project is still in the queue with Bristol County, and it's citing federal procurement issues where any contracts with consultant engineers needs to be go out for a proposal and evaluated, where Massachusetts 30B procurement doesn't require that, and so that's typically how we issue our engineering contracts. So what I asked the consultant engineer to do was put together a phased agreement for phase one, $50,000 to get moving on this design. And then in this contract, they will develop a conceptual design and an estimate for the construction. And once we have that, we can submit that conceptual design and the estimate to the county for funding towards the construction project, which will be procured, to meet both federal and state regulations. And we were looking to use, we have a $50,000 emergency line item in the water department budget that we've used for this type of contract agreement in the past. And then in the spring, we looked to request the rest of the funding for the phase of the design to complete the design.
Does the contractor understand the timeline here? And are we going to be able to get this in time for the ARPA process?
It's going to be tight. It's definitely going to be tight. This delay in since we've submitted this in August, and even before this, before it was targeted for ARPA, it was on the capital improvement request and it wasn't funded. So these delays have pushed it back quite a bit, and we're not sure if we can get it designed and constructed. So the final payments have to be expended for ARPA funding December 31st of 2026. So the design engineer did also present a engineering and construction schedule to try to align with that, with the ARPA funding.
Right, board members, any questions?
Were we just unaware of the criteria for this, Tim?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of was. I think, town hall was, I actually reached out to the county and set up a meeting just with them and myself to discuss this. And that's where they finally told us, why it's being held up. They were asking questions about every 30 days. They would ask a question and we'd respond, and then 30 days later they'd ask another question, and I was like, "That's it."
So they weren't really sure of their own requirements.
Well, I think they're sure of their requirements. They were just trying to ask questions to see if we had anything to submit that met those requirements. So we submitted projects back from 2016 when we started working with this consultant for an initial project, and to show that we've been working with them on water treatment from that time, and it still didn't meet the bill for them.
Right, so you're asking us for an approval of the first phase of this contract?
Correct.
All right, any other questions, board members? All right, do I have a motion?
Hey, one question, please.
Yes, go ahead, Rick.
CIP denied this request in the past, is that what I heard?
Yeah, so
Why are we
basically
going
at the town administration level, it wasn't recommended to the select board, and then didn't make town meeting.
So somebody wasn't doing their job, or, I mean, now we're coming in and we're gonna override that, is that right?
Well, basically,
I'm missing something, I don't
So-
understand, that's all.
so I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I want to say that they were looking at our capital and prioritizing what they thought what should be targeted towards ARPA funding. So they didn't recommend it for capital, they recommended it for ARPA funding. And then we tried to move forward with that as quick as we could after town meeting. And this is where we are now. So it didn't get approved as capital. So we're looking at expending our emergency budget line item for a first phase of the design.
Is this
Yep.
considered emergency?
I think as far as funding wise, it is. Because the construction project is estimated over $3 million. So if we don't get ARPA funding for the construction project, we're gonna have to find that money elsewhere, whether we borrow.
I get it.
Or-
But what happens if we allow this and then the design doesn't happen on time, we lose the 3 million anyway? What's the recourse of action there?
Then we have a shovel-ready project that we can look for other funding, or we look at borrowing. We have to borrow to get the first phase of that project done. To get some of our wells back online and to add, more water quality. And
Tim, isn't this one of the issues that we were met with finance about trying to correct in the future?
correct. Absolutely.
Right, so it kind of fell through the cracks.
Well, this was this was back in the spring when we proposed our capital. When this report and the recommendations for this project came out last year, I think around November. And then it was placed on the capital for the spring. And like I said, at that time, the administration targeted specific large ticket items for ARPA funding. And we all know they didn't approve much for our capital either.
Right.
In the spring or in the fall.
And this is a critical project
This is a
for
critical
ensuring
project.
that these wells will reduce our reliance on the city of New Bedford.
Yeah, so we have multiple wells offline still, that this will bring back online and it will include some resiliency, including like 4 log, so we can have some contact pipe time and the clear well.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
I would make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'm not sure if I'm totally convinced. I agree, but
All right, I'll second the motion. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so this has been approved on a 2-to-1 vote. Or actually, Rick, do you want to abstain or vote no?
abstain.
Abstain, okay. So this is a 2-0-1 vote.
Yeah.
All right, the next item is new business A, approval of the IFB contract for UV lamps and driver.
Okay, this is this project was advertised, and 2 bids were received as shown on the tabulation sheet in your package. It was advertised and procured properly for both state 30B and federal procurement. The low bidder was Trojan Technologies out of London, Ontario at $584,518.50. And the high bidder was Independent Electric Supply of Somerville, Mass. At $799,411.20. Since receiving the tabulation bids, I have submitted this project to the finance director to be submitted to ARPA for funding, to Bristol County for ARPA funding, that is, and requested that the town administrator certify this project. The project was certified, the project bid was received last week, and then the project was certified yesterday by the town administrator to be submitted to ARPA, to the county for ARPA funding.
All right, and the reason that this board needs to approve this contract now is what?
Well, we can approve this pending funding, or we can bring this back once we see that we receive funding. But this, we just wanted, I wanted to bring this before the board. We did procure this. I went out for bid. We have 2 bidders. And this is, we're submitting it to the county for ARPA funding.
Tim, do you see any reasons why it wouldn't be approved?
I don't, the money is there. The project was procured properly. It's a wastewater treatment project, so.
Yeah.
So what's the pleasure of the board? Approve it or approve it contingent on the ARPA funding?
I would support approving it contingent.
All right. Rick?
I'll make
you
a
have
motion
any-
to approve the IFB contract number 23, WPCO3 UV lamp and lamp driver in the amount of $584,518.50 contingent upon approval of ARPA funding. Is that how I would?
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
And I will keep the board noted on any progress of this project, and I will keep on them and the finance director to see how this project is processing through the process.
All right, is there anything else that needs to happen at town hall, or is this now in the hands of the county?
Now, it is now in the hands of the county, so it goes through an auditing firm. And then once approved through the auditing firm, it goes to the next level at the county, so.
Right? Next item, new business B, discussion of sticker issuing for SMART program. Tim?
Okay, so, for years, we've been issuing stickers, handing them out by hand. Every year, we open up in July, and we have a line for about 6 days a week for a month. So, one of the options we're looking at is possibly like an online sticker system similar to the park department. Just to step back a second, Jen has been working really hard on our SMART program in bringing it into into this century with new computers both here at the office and at the transfer station shed, and as well as new software from WinVRS. And our staff has been working hard to input all the data from the former software into this new software to get that all up and running. So now we're looking at, these possibilities with stickers. So, one possibility is an online system where residents can purchase their stickers online and pay for postage, and then we can mail them the stickers similar to the Parks and Rec for beach stickers. Kind of an issue with that, and it's kind of how we do it is the billing goes out for the SMART program in July, and stickers open in July as well. So people come in for stickers who may or may not be in paying for the program, to be in the program. Jen also, she reached out to, I think, North Attleboro, where they do it a little differently schedule wise, where they have they do mail order stickers for their residents in January, and they run stickers from January to January, but their billing still goes out in July. So when the billing goes out in July, by January, they know who's in the program and who's not in the program. So they know who to issue a sticker to or not to issue a sticker to. So that's one option, with some variables, and trying to eliminate the lines here in July. Every morning we drive up and there's already a line waiting at the door, like they're giving up, like it's a concert ticket, So I think it'll eliminate some of that when people can jump online and order them and get them mailed. Unless you're here with a trailer and you need to dispose of some trash in July, then yeah, you'll be getting your sticker physically. Another route is possibly going with a license plate reader, camera and software, where the WinVRS, the new software program, can read license plates, and based on that plate we can determine whether or not they're in the program. And this would actually eliminate stickers. But the downfall to that is our leaf and brush dump area is not at the same location. So that would be tough here at our facility to determine who was in the program, dumping brush and leaf.
What would you recommend?
And I guess that's kind of where we are. And I think I would recommend maybe initially moving towards the online stickers, get those electronically, eliminate the lines. It's already a program that we are used to, and it would still require stickers for the brush and leaf dump area. And then we can research a bit more on the license plate readers and see if we can incorporate both sites to be able to possibly use that.
Which has the largest volume, Tim?
I'd say that probably the transfer station, and it depends. I mean, times like this when we just had a real crazy storm, you'll have a big influx of people bringing in leaves and brush, and for the most part, you know, the brush, we need the brush because we use it for our compost. The leaves we don't, but we have to pay to get rid of those. So I guess it varies depending on weather. But we do have a busy transfer station. So you know, that's definitely, we want to keep that running smoothly. So, but the programming, the new software and the programming can handle that, the license plate reader, or we just do the same thing with our stickers when we look at the stickers. Unfortunately, they can't, that the new software can't use like a scannable sticker with a barcode on it. Because that might be another option as well, and maybe they will design that in the future. You know?
So Tim, the Parks Department issued their beach stickers online.
Yeah, and they have scannable stickers.
Yes, but when they did that, they inconvenienced a lot of people because they pushed too hard for the online approach the first year. And so there was a lot of pushback because people who were used to going in either didn't understand what was going on or were uncomfortable doing it online. So I only raised this issue to suggest that if the department, if Public Works can find a way to avoid that first year pushback, it would be a smart thing to do.
Yeah, it would be an option. So, you know, I know the Park Department they allowed physical stickers to be handed out on Wednesdays, and then everything else had to be online. We're still here, you know, Monday through Friday, trying not to, you know, work the Saturday hours for that, but we may have to do that the first year, or at least the first couple weeks of the first year. But I think giving residents that opportunity to move toward the online purchasing gives them that option. So if they don't want to come here and wait in line for an hour, they can purchase it online if they're not in a hurry to get to the transfer station.
So you'll report back with a recommendation.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions, board members?
Tim, I have a question. Will they still be able to purchase them, get the stickers at the transfer station when they're open?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, because in the past on the Saturdays, you know, we bring in extra staff and police detail because we all know the line.
That's through the month of July. Yep.
Yeah, are we still going to do that, or we're going to eliminate that?
I think for the first year, we would probably still have our staff here at our office to make sure it didn't and inhibit people from going to actually dump trash at the transfer station and keep them from going there for the month of July to get stickers only. And then I guess we would progress the next year. You know, we would see how that worked this year.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know how it is. It's the first July 1st, you can't even get in our parking lot down there.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Jen, do you have anything?
Yeah, sorry. Just, I know it will come back hopefully when we kind of streamline this a little, but just to keep in mind, our brush area is not covered all the time. So we only have Jimmy go out there every now and then to check for stickers, but there isn't somebody there that I'm aware of every time it's open to check those stickers. It's kind of just a here and there thing. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up is the timing with the beach stickers available online. They open that up, I want to say like April, May, where nobody's really going to the beaches till June or July. So I ordered my beach sticker online in May and got it in plenty of time to need it. But I can't do that with the stickers for the transfer station because of the smart billing being put together last minute.
Mm-hmm.
So the timing of some of these things is a little iffy.
Yeah, this is why I was being a little bit indirect, I'll be a little bit more direct. I figure the first year, maybe two, is gonna be, has to be a hybrid of some kind.
Yep.
So you can handle the transition and figure out what works best.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I know that compost thing, I go back there and also concerned about people legally dumping that don't belong back there but before COVID, I know Dave had National Telecom run those wires back towards that area because he was looking at doing the license plate camera system for that area. 'Cause I remember that's the trench that went back to that wall. Remember from the building from your old office or from where Paulie's sitting there?
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, the wiring is there for the technology. It was just trying to find the right technology for the plate scanner.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we reached out to the same company that does the beach stickers, Dave and I, on multiple occasions. And the beach sticker, the entire system is a little simpler because you're just paying for the sticker and you're in the system or you're not. There's no paying for a smart program and how many vehicles do you have? And so it's literally you buy a sticker and the sticker's in the system. So their system works a little easier, but Dave asked them to come down and look and talk to us about how we could make it work for the transfer station. And when they finally did get back to us after months, they wanted us to pay for their trip down here, the hotel, the dining,
Oh
and all
my
this
God.
other stuff. So Dave said, never mind.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I knew it. I did. We went through all that work, and I'm like, then we got, as usual, we get busy, and
Yeah,
I knew that was the dilemma trying to find the right vendor and program for that. But
yeah.
I know the basic infrastructure is already there waiting for it.
And we did put up cameras as well.
Yeah.
All right. So you'll come back with us on that. Any other questions, board members?
No.
All right. Moving on to new business, item C, multi-unit residential projects.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Tim.
As you're aware, we've received a number of proposals from multi-residential development this year and last year. And due to the age of and the capacity of the wastewater treatment facility and the infrastructure, we're working on evaluating the collection system. We received a draft report from Stantec, and we put together kind of a summary of that report. And we have some comments back to Stantec so they can revise the report. We were at the zoning board of appeals last night, and the one of the developers that is proposing a multi-residential development and has hired multiple attorneys to argue the fact that we are at 80% or above 80% capacity on our loading and our TSS and some of our flow. So, we are looking to we either need some kind of rule on treatment and mitigation for this type of development, or we need to come up with fees toward this type of mitigation so we can put that in place in our treatment. So I think the zoning board and the developer are looking to sit down with us to go over what we would be looking at for some mitigation fees for capacity and treatment of that type of discharge with that type of concentrated loading from the multi-residential.
So this has other board members, this has caused me to become a lot more familiar with sewer fees and the history of sewer fees and the rules and regulations that the department works under. The first thing to be aware of is that the sewer connection fees have not been changed since 1999, Tim, is that right?
Yeah. Well, the system development fee was online in 99, but it was amended, I think, by $500 in 2004.
Yeah, but it wasn't raised. That amendment had to do with something else of the connection fees.
Okay, yep,
So the the rate of inflation since then has increased prices 183%. So the bottom line is our connection fees are woefully low, and there are towns around, as we'll discuss in the next item, that our fee is currently $1,500 per residential unit or equivalent. And there are towns around that are charging $10,000. I'm not saying that's where we should be, but we'll talk about that in the next item. The other thing about these, my thinking on this particular project is that it's they're asking for a zoning variance. In essence, the site is zoned for, and they have some level of approval for an office building. And the difference between an office building and a 62 unit residential development, in part, is that there's higher BOD in the effluent that we would have to treat. And our rules and regulations provide under Article 3, Section 5, a mechanism for the department to either reject the waste, require pretreatment, require control over the quantities and rate of discharge, or require payment to cover additional costs of handling and treating the waste. So we've engaged in a conversation with the applicant here. They have demonstrated to us that they don't have the physical characteristics of the site preclude the kind of structure that would allow pretreatment. That is, they've got high groundwater, and if they put any kind of collection facility in for pretreatment, the thing will float out of the ground, which in essence makes it infeasible. So we've explored with them water conservation within the project, that is, to minimize the amount of effluent. We've had to discard the issue of pretreatment. They underestimated by a considerable amount what their connection fee would be, but we have since corrected that perception. And so right now, Tim is sitting down with this applicant and is going to try and negotiate some kind of fee pursuant to Article 3 that allows the department to continue the upgrade of the sewage treatment plant so that they can handle higher BOD. That's kind of the situation we're in. So basically, it's money for mitigation. That's what we're left with. The reason this is on the agenda is we wanted to tell you that the other board members that this is what's going on, and encourage you to ask any questions or make any comments at this time before we get further into it. We're under the Zoning Board of Appeals appears to be disposed to approve this project. And so the idea here is for the department to receive as much benefit as they can as this thing moves through the zoning variance.
Yeah.
So
the zoning board of appeals has stated, and they don't have any criteria to base a decision on sewer or wastewater. Their decisions are based on the use variance that's being requested in the area that's being requested at, based on a hardship that's presented. So they're they want us to negotiate with the developer on the fee that we see fit. As
How does Mike feel about this?
Well,
Because, if it's not feasible, then maybe the site's not buildable, should not be buildable. I don't know where that stands, but based on the treatment plant, can we handle additional flow? We've had issues in the past, have we not, Mike? I don't know. Correct me if I'm
Rick,
wrong.
I think, flow wise, it's not a huge amount of flow, but, the plant is, right at the edge as far as flow intermittently, but it's the loadings that is hurting us right now. And that we're right at the limit as far as the loadings that we can handle. As far as them saying that, treatment is not an option for them, as far as my professional opinion, water table and putting tanks in and stuff like that, I don't go for that. I've been in the business for 40 years. I put tanks in where the water table is at 1 inch. That's why they create valves and tanks, water release valves and tanks. We've got tanks all over our plant, and our water table is probably at a foot at times. So it's definitely a doable thing. It's, do we want them to have treatment on site? And that's probably a no, because what happens is people put treatment facilities, even minimal, and then they disappear and nobody's running them. And that creates a bigger headache. So, if they put in pre-treatment as far as grease removal, grease traps and stuff like that, that's definitely a good idea. And I think it's probably something we would encourage. But as far as treatment, aeration, things like that, that's probably more detrimental to what we want to accomplish than anything. So I think them paying fees so that we can accomplish more at the plant as far as loadings and completing our aeration project is more advantageous to us than them putting on-site treatment.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful, in my opinion. You set precedents, and then everybody and their mother's gonna be doing the same thing.
Exactly.
So I don't know what's in front of me or the future either. So just, at what point do you guys, if there's huge concerns at the plant, do you set a moratorium on
Well,
X, Y, Z?
I don't like the idea of anybody connecting right now, to tell you the truth, Rick. I think we're backed up against the wall, but do we have, we're at the point where it's got us backed up against the wall, like you said, as far as, the loadings coming into the plant. And that's why we're doing all this stuff right now to be able to assess where we're at as far as loadings come into the plant and can development continue.
Right, so somebody over there is signing that permit for them, stating that we have, you know.
I
we're okay for
agree.
them. So you just gotta be careful, that's all. I have huge concerns of this, and I don't know if somebody's doing their homework, so.
Yeah, their counsel, their attorneys continue to paint the picture that, based on our discharge permit, that we're not exceeding any MCLs, right? So we're not exceeding any limits, and we have plenty of capacity to take on more flow.
The lawyer's telling us that?
The lawyer's painting that picture to the zoning board and the public, yeah.
Well, maybe they should ask the right personnel
Right.
questions to verify those numbers. That's all I have to
And
say.
Rick, we just had a flow and load study done, as you know. That does not paint that picture. That flow and load study paints just the opposite picture, that, you know, the plant's 35 years old and is not capable of taking any more loading.
Yeah, we know that, but the people approving these plans should know this as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, we're looking at the influent, they're looking at the effluent, right?
Yeah, and
But because we're not violating on that end,
We're
They-
doing too good
they
of a
think-
job, Rick.
we're doing too good of a job, that's right.
look, it occurs to me that from a developer standpoint, and we're negotiating with the developer, and it's important to understand where they're coming from. If we and they decide that we're gonna try and settle the technical question of, is the plant in a condition that precludes their connection? If we try and do that, based on what they've said about, we meet our discharge permit, and we say that the plant can't handle more, and we get into a long technical tussle about how those two things relate to each other, that could take 6 months or a year through the courts with expensive lawyers and all that other stuff. And it seems to me that if we can get a reasonable mitigation fee from them, reasonable from our perspective, that actually allows Mike and his team to move forward with some of the system upgrades, the temporary system upgrades that are necessary, that is as productive as going into some kind of a long conflict over whether or not there's sufficient capacity in this plant such that the applicant can force us to make a connection. And our next discussion item has to do with water and sewer connection fees. And I think part of our strategy is to increase the amount of money that new projects are providing to these enterprise funds to try and get ahead of it. But again, we're discussing this at the board level because these are the kinds of decisions that all three of us need to weigh in on. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on all this.
Mike, this is Ron. How consistently are we at 80% with flow and load?
With flow, it's pretty intermittent lately, only because, you know, we're basing this on a 12-month moving average, and last year was a pretty off year, but it is climbing back up. As far as loading, BOD and TSS, TSS can be as much as 70%. BOD can be as much as 50% of the time. As far as monthly average, weekly average could be 50%, 60% of the time, according to that flow and load study done by Stantec. Dennis could probably chirp in with me, but Stantec's numbers were based on the old permit. But it doesn't really change things a lot. But when you look at it from a weekly, because we have weekly maximum numbers in the permit as well, they didn't really look at the impact of weekly, which we really don't have to. That report that they gave us really tells the story on a monthly basis. But when you look at weekly, it makes it look even worse because of the weekly maximum numbers.
Yeah.
But
Could I get a copy of that report? I'd like to read that. I'm not quite sure I ever seen it.
oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Tim, I thought we sent that out to the board as part of this package.
Well, the report, we have some revisions and
Right.
comments on, so.
Right,
So
but the presentation though,
no, I can send this, I didn't send the presentation summary, but I can send that as well. I can send
No.
both. Or
yeah, I thought that was sent out. I'm sorry, gentlemen, I didn't realize you didn't have that material in front of you.
No.
Tim, if you could, before you send the Stantec report out, would you mark it draft, please?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
No, it
I've
seems
got
like there's
everyone-
still some latitude, Mike. If
What's
you're
that?
is there, to me, it seems like there's some latitude there that supports the chairman's approach to this to get revenue as opposed to moratoriums.
Well, here's the issue right now. As far as flow is concerned, that could go back the other way. We were hitting 80% all the time. If you go back, and Tim can tell you this, if you take out last year, we were hitting 80% all the time.
Okay,
Last year was a drought year.
right,
As
yeah,
far as BOD, that's a continual thing. TSS is also a continual thing, and that's a problem because TSS directly affects our ability to disinfect with UV.
but did I hear you say you were at 50% consistently?
50% of the time, we were over 80%.
Oh, okay,
Right.
all right, I misunderstood that, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't very clear with that, but
Yeah, I need to read the report.
so it is pretty tough. The thing is the timeframes now to address these issues are they're pretty long. We're looking at 2 years for this interim thing that we're doing right now for the aeration that will
Yeah.
buy us a little extra BOD treatment. That's the interim step to get to the full upgrade, and that will buy us some time. But that's
Right.
going to take a few years to even get off the ground.
Now, you got a 30-30 permit,
Yes,
and
But-
you're probably what, 95% removals?
we're doing that right now, but we do see times of year now where those removals get down to 85%. And
Hmm.
Dennis will tell you, we have those times a year now because of nitrification. The plant does nitrify
Yeah,
naturally, and that really, because we don't denitrify, really hurts us. We
Yeah.
get down to 85% removal, and even though we get a 30-30 permit, we'll get up near 25 on discharge because we can't denitrify.
and no one from the state is reaching out?
No, I've talked to Dave Burns several times, and most of the year we're single digit discharger and we're at 95% removal, so they don't bother us. We do a really good job. And the 1 or 2 months that we have problems, we're still making permits, so they don't bother us. We continually hear from the state that, we have problem trials, we go after them. We don't bother you guys because you're not a problem. But they don't see behind the scenes, they do and they don't. But until we're showing up on their board as far as violations, it's not going to be a problem. But we have had some violations recently where we've had 3 violations on Enterococcus recently, and that's all related to high TSS numbers, high BOD numbers, where we have low transmittance it could be. I don't, it's hard to tell what causes the high enterococcus, but these are all things that can build up, you know what I mean? And that's what causes the,
Well, you're moving forward with new lamps, right?
Yeah.
You know, it could be a
So-
function of the lamps.
we're trying to, let's put it that way, but
Yeah.
Tim will talk to you about that,
Mhm.
because
Already
I
have.
won't.
So
All right.
one other consideration here is
Follow up on that.
that there are several different parts to the capital projects that will help deal with some of these problems on an interim basis. They're going to take, I don't know, Mike, anywhere from a year to 18 months, maybe more to implement, but
Right.
the projects that we're talking about take time to permit and build. And so it's likely that they would be coming online and posing the challenge for treatment about the same time frame. And so that's why we're trying to generate as much mitigation fund as we can, so we can, if you will, pay for these systems as we are able to get them on and then get them online, and hope that the timing matches more or less. But again, I fear that particularly projects that are coming in through zoning variance don't seem to allow the town, and in particular the Department of Public Works, much real ability to ask for mitigation except through the connection fees. And one of the things about this particular project is if we do set a precedent for mitigation relating to the nature of the project, that helps us in the future when we ask for expect similar treatment for other projects. So Rick, your comment about precedent I take very seriously. But we do, there, as I indicated earlier, there is a provision in our rules and regulations that allows, under certain circumstances, the department to take a payment in lieu of pre-treatment. And in this case, that appears to be a reasonable approach. So anyway, that's what I had hoped to cover with the board this morning.
Yeah, one more quick question, Rob. We brought several groups through the treatment plant to explain the set of circumstances that the facility is in at this point in time. Was zoning ever included in that?
The chairman of this board was.
Okay,
And
so they're
he's-
aware.
Yes, and he seems to be helping to give us an opportunity to work this out. In other words, they didn't just take the easy way and adopt findings that simply ignored this as an issue because, if you will, it wasn't within their purview. He was willing to stretch one of their approval criteria a little bit to at least consider this as an issue. And I think the tour helped with that.
Okay.
Yeah, they were pretty good on the tour.
Right. Anything else on this item? All right. Thank you. I think that was a pretty good discussion. I appreciate it. Next item is discussion and possible action for water and sewer connection fees. Tim and Sandy, do you guys want to lead this?
So Sandy has been working pretty hard on comparing different municipalities of similar size and utility users for both water and sewer connection fees. So, you know, we're looking at a variety of formulas that everybody uses to calculate their fees, you know, from bedrooms to units to estimated flows to, you know, to size of water lines to calculate sewer connection fees. So it's all over the place. I emailed the PDF of the spreadsheet that she did put together, and I'll bring it up on my screen.
Tim, while you're doing that, could you also give us your impression of how the rate study does or does not inform this discussion? Yeah, we're working on a rate study.
Yeah.
Is that right?
We are correct.
And
Would you say how the rate study does or does not inform this discussion?
yeah, in other words, is the rate study part of it? I mean, obviously, well, I'll let you
All right.
think about that while you're calling this up.
One sec. Sorry. I can bring up the sewer. So this is, so you can see, so this is the water side. So water, existing water fees across, this is first column is Dartmouth. The highlighted column is some estimated increases that we're looking at. And then across is comparisons to other communities. So, you know, where we have $2,000 for a connection fee to water for a 3/4 inch, a 1 inch, and then 36 for an 1.5 inches, 58, and so on. Chelmsford has, you know, for a 3/4 inch, they're charging $3,125. Going across, we have Falmouth at 2,800, Gardner at 2,500. Keep going. Rick could be interested. We have Mansfield at 2,460 for a 3/4 inch, $6,270 for a 1 inch, and then an 1.5 inch service is $25,790. So, there's, you know, $2,500 for a 4-bedroom in Marshfield. You know, so here in Randolph, you're 1,500. North Attleboro, it's 1,250, and then increases per size. So we're not far off, but we could use, you know, a little increase. I think our larger connections, our larger pipe diameters are pretty good. I think they're pretty high in comparison to anybody else, so I probably wouldn't raise those. But I think the lower diameter services, and then come on, tapping fees. You know, these have been the same tapping fees for many years. So an increase in these, if we look at, we charge $500 for a 4 inch to up to $2,000 for a 12 inch, and then coming across, you really don't have a lot of comparison for tapping fees.
Tim, when was the last time the connection fees were adjusted for water?
I'm not sure. It was quite a while ago though.
Okay.
It was probably not far off of the 99 sewer connection fees. And then let's see, sewer. See if I can do it. Yeah. That's sewer. All right. There we go. So this is, you can all see that, right?
Yes.
So this is the sewer connection side. So you look here on the left column is Dartmouth. Our current connection fee is $1,500 per unit, and then you know, if we go down, we have some.
Tim, I think you're showing the wrong screen. maybe.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh, is it?
seeing the
I'm not-
same
yeah.
spreadsheet.
Oh, what are you seeing? Oh, wait.
Look like a PDF document
Oh,
with text.
oh, sorry. Try that again. That should be the one.
Looks like
Is
it.
that it? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. All right, so back again. So the left column is Dartmouth, and then the second column, I've just put in some possible highlighted increases. Our current connection fee is $1,500 per unit. So as we go across the board, we see, we see some small ones, Arlington, Belmont, Canton's 2,000, Chelmsford's 200. Dedham has 500, but they have a $7.50 per gallon per day. So that, calculates to a higher cost. Eastern is 700 to 3,000. Gardner is 1840 to 3750. Mansfield has a $9.45 gallon per day connection fee, and then looks like a $600 per bedroom fee, and then they also have connection fees based on water service size. So based on a 5/8 and 3/4 inch water service, they charge a $2,400 connection fee. For sewer, 1 inch water service, they charge a $9,200 for a sewer connection, and then for an 1.5 inch water service, they charge $37,800 for a sewer connection. Marion has 10,000. I'm sorry.
So for these towns that have a flat fee for the connection plus a gallon per day fee, do we know how they calculate the gallons per day?
So some of the actual connection fees are based on the gallons per day. And then,
Okay.
and I think Mansfield, when they look at like apartments or condos, they're actually using 62, I think, gallon per day, rather than 110 gallon per day per bedroom.
Okay.
To base their calculation on.
So nothing metered. It's just an average. There's nothing metered.
Where?
Well,
Basic-
calculating
sewer-
those fees.
So because we meter water usage, right?
Right.
And that's how the rates come into play with the billing. As far as connection, we use Title V flows to estimate the flows. So based on 110 gallons per day per bedroom,
Yep.
we currently we have a connection fee of $1,500 per unit, but we also, when we calculate connection fees for, say, like multi-residential or any commercial industry, we use an equivalent residential unit. So we take their estimated flows based on Title V, and we divide it by 330 gallons per day, which is typically a average three bedroom home. And that gives us an equivalent number of units. Multiply that times the $1,500 connection fee will give you your connection fee. So it's based on Title V flows and an equivalent residential unit.
Yeah, no, I understand all that. I'm just saying, you're still measuring consumption,
We're still measuring, so this is the connection.
you know, of water.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
does anybody equate that to come up with the number?
so we, we estimate it based on Title V flows for the connection fee for the demand that this new development will put on our system. And then the metered water rate gets billed. We do have developers that say, well, we have similar facilities that only use this many gallons per day, so you should be charging that for our connection fee. Where we also always have stayed consistent with Title V flows.
Okay.
Right, so Tim, what do you know what the procedure has been in the past for adopting new fees or change in fees?
Basically a new fee will be recommended to the board, and the board discusses and can vote on it.
Right, what kind of public noticing is done?
We post our fee sheet. So all of our connection fees, we post that on the website, and that's about it. I mean, if we come up with, we can also send it to the town clerk. And we can, if we update any of our, like the sewer regulations to include those fees, but a lot of those fees aren't currently in the regulations, we can also post that up. If we amend those and post that on the website and at the town clerk's office.
And what about newspaper advertising?
We don't typically take out newspaper ads to
Tommy, I've been around since '96 doing this, and at some point between '96 and 2000, we used to do ads in the newspaper, but we haven't done those since because newspapers have gone by the wayside. So internet's the way to go now.
So you're suggesting we contribute to the demise of newspapers?
Not at all, sir.
So we should post our fees on Facebook. Is that what you're saying?
They're already, Tim. But anyway, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt anymore. But yeah, that's how it was done. I mean, I've been involved in this since '96. So that's how it was done. We used to post even the water rates every year in the newspaper anytime there a change was made, and post them at town hall and at the DPW office so people could see them. So,
right. So
should there be a heads up to the select board in decisions like this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be an important leading edge of the entire process.
Tip of the spear.
Right. Well, board members, my reaction to the last few weeks is that we need to increase the sewer connection fees substantially. I think doubling the base fee or basing it on a gallons per day equivalency, either way, as long as it's substantially higher than it is today. That's my opinion. In terms of the water connection fees, I could see a moderate increase. And I personally think both are justified because these fees haven't been adjusted for many years, and the cost of doing business is much, much higher than it was the last time they were set. So that's my own opinion. And I think that I'm open to directing staff to come back to us with a proposal and as to where they might be set, where they recommend it, and then also to recommend a process for moving forward so the public and the select board and other members of the town can see this coming and have an opportunity to comment. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I'm in complete favor of that, Mr. Chairman. It's an expensive business we run
It
and
is,
it needs revenue.
it is. I mean, other fees that we don't typically show, we don't charge for, sewer main extensions for, for say subdivisions or extensions on the road, for connections by private, developers. I looked at Fairhaven, and Fairhaven charges, $5,000 for 1 to 4 property extension and $10,000 for 5+ property. That's for them to tap into the sewer main and extend the sewer to put that demand on the system. And I think maybe implementing some of those type of fees as well.
I think that's a great idea.
If we look at across the board over at Marion did some pretty extensive updates on their fees. And they charge a $10,000 connection fee. And then when we go to the II fees, they have some really substantial II fees down here. So between $2,000 and $10,000, they're looking at $13.80 per gallon per day, based on Title V flows. So if you look at, if the average flow is greater than 440 gallons per day, they add an extra $10,000 to their fee. And then 440 gallons per day equates to a 4-bedroom home, right, unit. So, and then using the gallons per day, they're looking at 2,000 to 10,000 gallon per day development. They're looking at $27,600 to $138,000 in fees. And then 10,000 to 20,000 gallon per day development, they're looking at $138,000 to $276,000 of fees. I mean, that's the opposite end of the spectrum, and that's pretty extensive. But they did some really high connection fees. Over here they have $10,000 plus $300 per room.
So Tim, I think the board understands the range of what other towns do, and I think I'm hearing a lot of sympathy for increasing the fees for connection, for sewer extension, and for I&I.
Yep.
And so I think if you could bring something back to us that we can react to.
Yep.
And I think, as I said earlier, I think the fees should increase substantially.
Why do your fees for 5/8 3/4 is 2,400? And why is it consistent all the way through the inch and a half? Any idea?
Currently our connection fee is $1,500. And that's consistent.
Why is that?
That's just how it's always been. Back in 1999, the fee was, the system development fee was considered as per unit rather than per diameter of pipe. So that's what the board approved back in 1999. So it's $1,500 per unit, regardless of how many bedrooms or the size of their service.
Well,
So
again,
nobody's got it.
typically a residential home is 5/8 3/4.
Right.
And the 1 inch is more, obviously multi-unit if it's depending upon how many meters that go in the building, depending upon the situation, right?
No, well, that was, I think back in the day, 5/8 and 3/4 were most residential units. Now, all new residential units are 1 inch here in Dartmouth. That may differ in Mansfield, but all our residential connections are 1 inch now. So we, for years we've charged the same across. But if there are residential homes, large homes that have 1.5 inch services, but they were always also charged the same connection fee, you know,
You have inch and a half? Okay,
residential.
yes,
Yeah, we did.
really. A lot of water.
It is. Sometimes, when you have a long service, they look at even that volume in there, so. So rather than extending the 1 inch for, you know, a few hundred feet, 400, 500 feet or longer, they'll add an inch and a half.
Aren't you
Okay.
going by the meter size though, not the service size?
Yeah, and a lot of those larger homes, if the plumber, calcs that to equate to a larger meter size, then they'll install a larger meter.
Maybe she should increase those fees accordingly, but
No, you're
come
correct.
back with.
And that's what, and yes, and we can look at that as either a gallon per day, or we can do it per service size. Those are all, you know, good options, you know, rather than a consistent charge across the board. Because the use is more as this, you know, typically as the service size has increased.
So we're not looking to vote right now. You guys need to do some more homework. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Very good. Well, listen, I have to unfortunately leave, so I wish you all a Merry Christmas. I have people waiting for me out in the field.
Merry Christmas, Rick.
Merry Christmas, Rick.
Merry
Thank you all.
Christmas, Rick.
Bye now.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you.
Merry Christmas.
All right, so Ron, I have nothing else to add, except I'd like this brought back in a timely manner with a fairly specific proposal that we could react to, and have it be certain that the select board and the town as a whole realize what we're intending to do here.
Yeah, once we do and present this to probably to the town administrator, the select board would most likely invite us to a public meeting to explain the increase in the fees.
All right. Okay, anything else, Ron?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I think you got a pretty good idea what we're looking for. And thank you, Sandy, for putting this together.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
Good job, Sandy.
Tim, if you and Sandy can decide how you want to move this through. I know, Tim, you're really busy, and you guys can decide how you individually want to be responsible for which parts of this.
Yep.
All right.
We have ideas and we have a lot of data from other, you know,
Yeah.
communities. So we'll come up with a couple of good options for the board to look at.
Right, and especially going into a group like the select board, I'm not sure how much advantage you'd gain from a spreadsheet this large.
Right.
I mean, you know, for us, we can handle it, but this may be, as they say, too much information for them.
Yeah, so we may take, you know, depending on how we choose to calculate the fees, we may take comparable community comparisons just for those calculations. Like Fairhaven added the sewer main extension fees, you know, so we'll compare that to Fairhaven, you know, so we can take the different comparables, I think.
All right. Okay, if there's nothing else on this, the next item is conversion of manual time cards to an electronic system.
Unfortunately, Rick's not here for this because, you know, I'm sure he had some good input from Mansfield, you know.
Okay. Well, there's nothing, we don't have a deadline on this, so maybe this could be continued. The reason for putting this on the agenda is I became aware that the Public Works Department's the only entity in the town that physically punches a time clock. And that felt like something we should discuss and see if it should continue or whether there was a more modern way to do this.
I was unaware that they were doing that.
Yeah, well, so was I.
You've never seen the piece of art on the wall, you know?
We
that
figured it
antique
was
time
art.
clock? Yeah.
Or
Not
maybe
very
they
observant, I suppose.
Yeah.
you know, you go into town hall, there's all kinds of antique maps. Maybe it was just an antique hanging on the wall.
Could have been, could be. So moving forward, and Jen's been working on this, evaluating, electronic, time clocks, as well as the possibility of logging in on a computer if need be. I know Steve Sullivan, a few years back, he upgraded his manual time clocks to an electronic system, by UAttend. So we looked into that. So currently, I think his fee may be cheaper because he only has a small number of employees that punches that clock. But if we take this on the entire DPW, it would be about $149 for the device and about $119 per month for the cloud-based service for up to 500 employees. And they can use, you know, they have fingerprint, facial recognition, cards or PIN numbers, all different ways to do it. And they also allow for computer login access. So that's basically one option. Because the entire DPW uses punch cards, I think if we try to eliminate any type of either login or punch cards, there may be some type of grievance because it's all one union. And here at the administration building, we engineering, the clerical, we all have computers. And when you go to, you know, the water department or wastewater or the, you know, laborers or drivers at the highway and any of the employees over there, nobody has computers to be able to log in, right? And to keep track of their time. So
Tim, have you had any discussions with shop stewards about this?
not yet, no.
Okay, I think that would be smart for two reasons. Let them know what we're talking about, and two, see if they have any ideas.
Yeah. Yep.
You never know.
No.
All right, so you bring this back to us?
We will.
Okay. Committee updates. The Soil Commission or Soil Committee met Tuesday evening, and approved a number of routine permits, excuse me, and one enforcement action. Other than that, I have no other committee reports to provide.
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
And then on a more general note, there was an extensive discussion of next year's budget for the schools at the select board. And just so everybody sees this coming, the select board is seriously discussing an override to be applied to the school budget for next year. So that's a fairly big deal and would involve, I don't think it would involve the department directly, but it's going to require quite a bit more work on the department's part in developing their budget, because my understanding is that the town administrator is going to require two budgets, one for the circumstance that the override passes, and the other for the circumstance that the override is defeated. Tim, have I got that more or less right?
That is correct. So they were requesting that we put together a level funded budget for if the override does pass, and then a reduced budget if the override does not pass. And a percentage of reduction has not been sent out. They haven't come up with a number yet. It could be a number of employee cuts. So we're not sure.
And then, Tim, could you get clarification and see if you can get the town administrator to understand that whatever operational costs are covered under the enterprise funds should not be affected?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
I may not have stated that very well, but
That would be any general funded
Right,
departments. Yeah.
right. That would be the focus of whatever reductions that might have to occur. All right.
Correct.
All right. Tim, do you have any updates?
A couple updates. So just, we were talking about the storm earlier. We had some washouts. We had, a lot of flooding on Smith Neck Road, Horse Neck Road, Potomska Road out near Lucy Little, at the end of Rogers Street. Our crews are out there. A lot of trees that fell. Some fell on utility lines, creating power outages. Some fell, in the street or on property. So our crews are out there, wearing the storm and keeping the roads as safe as possible and opening them up. They were out there yesterday working on Smith Neck Road. There was some undermining, so some protection was built up and some patchwork is needed. So in the future, we really need to look at a design along the edge of the beach there to protect that roadway. I hear Westport was in worse shape along East Beach. I think they lost a big section of their road. Also, our 299 water treatment facility in Wells B and C actually have been down from power since that storm. And Eversource says it's on our end. We don't have any trees on lines or anything there, so we have an electrician working out there with Steve and the crew trying to figure out why we lost power. We've been on backup power since the storm.
So Tim, do you have any, I had the opportunity to walk out to Smith Neck Road from the south and met one of Dartmouth's finest as I went past the police tape. And he allowed us how that it wasn't very smart for me to go out there, and I explained to him who I was and why I needed to take one picture, which I did. You might want to, if you've got some photos of the wave damage and what was actually going on during high tide, I think the town needs to be more aware of the risk to that section of Smith Neck Road, because it's either going to get really expensive to maintain it, or maybe there's going to have to be an alternative route. And I'm more than a little aware, because people have told me that there's history and to stay away from it. But there is another road out there that seems to me to make more sense to use. But again, I'm the new kid on the block.
No comment.
Say what?
None
I
needed.
said no comment.
None needed.
Okay. All
I
right.
don't disagree with you.
Yeah, right. Well, we may get there. That was a 1.5 foot storm surge on top of a relatively low high tide. And a bigger storm surge on a bigger high tide, and the damage would be much more substantial, particularly there. And that's, for those of us who live on Smith Neck Road, that's how the emergency services are supposed to get to us. Otherwise, they got to go around Robin Hood's barn, as my dad would say.
Right.
So, there's more to it than convenience.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else, Tim?
Just a quick update just on our transfer station and recycling services. The district has been chasing food waste for a while, trying to create capacity at the dump at Crapo Hill to slow down the filling of the landfill, so we can stretch stuff out as long as
The inevitable.
the inevitable. Correct. They're also looking at possible options of expanding their facility for both solid waste and for possible food waste and composting. So you may know that Mass DEP banned large generators of food waste from the waste stream. I'm not sure anybody's enforcing that yet, but they did ban it. And eventually, I think it'll come down the line, come down the chain to households once we get to a capacity issue. So I guess there are services that the district knows of that they'll supply bins for residents to dump food waste if they want to collect it. I mean, we do sell composting bins for vegetables and anything that can be composted that way, but no meats and fats or anything can be placed in those. So the rest of the food waste, they have a program. It's $60 a week, which comes out to $3,120 per year for 3 64-gallon, like the recycling carts that we use, but the 3 64-gallon carts to be picked up weekly. The city of New Bedford went this route, and they weren't getting filled in a week, so they've opted for pickup every other week. So that'll cut that fee in half. If we do include this service through the state, we will be awarded 1 RDP point, which is worth $1,800. So take that $1,800 off of the $3,120, it's $1,320. It would cost us annually for the program. And we could potentially use the other awarded RDP points to fund that. So it wouldn't be a cost out of our budget. And there are questions on, maintenance and upkeep in it. And I guess that's the big issue, is keeping it clean around those bins. So you don't have rodent problems or safety issues, for residents. So these are questions that we have. We want to ask the district and maybe the supplier and maybe a couple other towns that, or even the city of New Bedford, they use this facility. It's called Black Earth.
So Tim, how are the containers controlled for odor?
The only thing I know is a container. It's like the recycling carts. It's but they're lined with a liner, like a bag, and then it's got the hinge cover, basically.
That was an experience.
Well,
Tell you when you get out.
Mike. So
All right, well, so you'll bring this back to us before anything happens, right?
yeah, so that's all. They're the plastic liner that they take with them when they empty the carts, and then and it's just a hinge cover, I believe, like the recycling bins that we have.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, anything else, Tim?
Nope.
All right, I have one question. Have you heard anything about any progress on the discussions between Serped and planning on doing some kind of population and zoning analysis as a basis for future alternatives for wastewater treatment?
I did ask that, we be included in their next meeting.
All right.
So that was most likely going to be sometime after the first of the year. They did say that, they could complete some population study by the end of the fiscal
Okay.
for us. But that's all I've heard. I haven't heard any updates. I have reached out to the assistant town administrator and discussed it with him a couple times. So he said he'd keep me updated.
All right, so that's population. There's also the locational issue, trying to figure out where this demand may occur.
Right. And that might be more of, towards their housing study. I know their housing study is expected to take a bit longer
All right,
to
can
to
we,
complete.
would it be possible for you to set up an actual face-to-face discussion either by Zoom or in person and go over this? Because I have a suspicion that our needs are not well understood. And I think it'd be worthwhile to have a discussion and then to explore whether the department needs to have a more direct role, at least in pushing the schedule along. If you could get back to us on that, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Ron, anything?
No, could you just repeat, what was your original question? Because I wasn't following that.
So in order to look at alternatives for the future wastewater treatment, we need population and locational issue, you know, where are these kinds of developments going to occur? And we started asking both planning and Serped in July, I think it was, to sit down and talk about how we could have the information that we need. And I'm not aware that any significant progress has been made in the last 5 months or more. And so I'm getting impatient and thinking about how to motivate them a little bit. And
I got you now. Okay.
okay, all right. Anything else, Tim?
That is it for me.
Okay, with that, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Before we go, we wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Be safe. Enjoy your time together with your families and whoever else you're going to be with. And thank you all for a good year. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you. Happy
Thank
holidays,
Thank
everybody.
you,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Take care.